What's up, y'all? Back for another video. I've decided to move Strangers to another day. So we're going to do Strangers this weekend. And I'm probably just going to do the first one. Hold on. What's that? I was thinking of maybe doing the second one, but I really don't have any interest. And I'm in the camp. I think Strangers is better off as a one-off. I don't really. So I might just stick with the first one. So I'll review it maybe Saturday. But today, back with another episode of Bad Movie Wednesdays. I'll figure out what bad movie we'll do next week. Maybe we'll do No Holds Barred, which is with Hulk Hogan and Zeus. I forgot how bad that movie was, so I might do that one maybe next Wednesday. But today we are doing Planet of the Apes, Tim Burton's, which came out in 2001. I remember when this came out, and I think I had a VHS of it at the time. And I will say, I probably liked it as a kid, but rewatching it later on, especially around when like the one I'm actually going to review on Friday, the Rise of the Planet of the Apes came out, you just see it's night and day, and it's just like, my God, this one is so bad. And it sucks. I love Tim Burton. I don't know if it was studio interference, if it was just legitimately a bad script. I think there's some good. Like, I like a little bit that the costumes very much are inspired by the original. I kind of... Sorry about the movie, something. I wish they... Because the costuming is very good. I think that's like, if I had to say probably my biggest positive of this movie, is the costuming. It looks really good. Like, it looks like they clearly put some work into it. They're clearly inspired by the original Planet of the Apes movies, which eventually sometime I'll review the original Planet of the Apes, but everything else, I did like Tim Roth as Thade. I thought he was a pretty good villain. Michael Clarke Duncan was wasted. I just felt like he was there. He had the one fight scene with the one ape that let him out, that was helping with Mari, I think was the name. That's Helen Bonham Carter's character. Besides that, I feel like Michael Clarke Duncan didn't really do shit in the movie. I did like his costuming. I thought he looked really dope in the armor, but then that's it. He really didn't do anything. As I think Atar was the name. The movie all around has a lot of problems. For one, Mark Wahlberg, rewatching it today really made me notice this. He's generic lead in this movie. There's nothing about his character that has any actual interest to him. He's just generic lead. That's what he felt like to me in this movie. He was generic lead character. That's what he was in this. He was there was nothing really. His character didn't really have any goals. Besides leaving the planet, where he landed on, because a mission gone wrong kind of thing. And even then, you don't really get a chance to know his character, really. He just immediately, mission goes wrong. He gets transported. I guess time travel, basically, ahead of time, where the apes took over, obviously. And it turns out the apes, obviously, came from his ship, which had a bunch of apes, and evolved. That's kind of the implication. And there's no world building in this movie. Planet of the Apes is one of those franchises you gotta have a lot of world building. And that's one of the things that the new trilogy, I thought, did well, was the world building. And I'm gonna get into that when I get into those movies. And in this, it's just, there's none. Oh, this all just kind of happens. There's a little bit of a story there. If you had a stronger lead, Mark Wahlberg I don't inherently have a problem with him as the lead. It's just, they didn't give him anything to work with. He needs to get off the island or the planet. That's it. There's nothing to his character. He doesn't really have any real goals. Even the scenes when he finds out all his friends that, came to look for him are all dead. He has a quick reaction and he just moves on. It's insane to me. I'm like, this character really has no goals or any actual anything to him. This isn't good for storytelling. And then I felt like I'll be honest, I don't remember her name. The love interest, the human, love interest. This goes into my main problem with this movie, and that's all I really remember this movie for, is the shitty love triangle between him, the human girl, and then Mari, the ape chick, which is Helen Bonham Carter. It was so forced. It was not needed. I get it. There are some stories in the original where a human does fall in love. Like there's a scene where you do see a human kiss an ape. That's one of those things I don't really want you to bring in modern times. I think maybe at the time they weren't looking at it like that. For me, I just think it's weird. I'm sorry, I do. I get it. The apes in this world are kind of sentient. It's still weird to me. I don't. And then also, not just that, it really it destroyed the movie because that was the only thing. And even Mark Wahlberg wasn't even really participating in that. It was just the girls came on to him, and they eventually chose the one. And even then, it doesn't really go anywhere because he just leaves, and then he goes back to his planet. But then something goes wrong, and the apes take over. And that's probably be the thumbnail of this video. Probably one of the fucking most retarded fucking endings to a movie. That ending where all the apes just are. They don't even explain it. They were clearly trying to go for a shock reveal, like in the original Planet of the Apes, where it turns out it's Earth. You think it's some other planet, but it's actually Earth. You blew it all up, like that iconic scene with Charlton Heston, who's in this just to say damn them all to hell. It was so forced, man. It was like, even though this was 2001 and this probably wasn't a term then, but it was very much key jangling, if you were going to call it that now. Like, that's how I look at it. That's what it felt like to me. He didn't really need to be in the movie. He was Thade's dad, who you only see for a second just where he can say some of the lines and basically give him a bunch of exposition dump about how humans were in charge of us before. That's it. He was just there to just tell him that and then say the iconic line, damn them all to hell. And it was so forced, man. It was like, it wasn't earned. You really didn't even need to put Charlton Heston in this movie. Just pulling him out just to have him say the thing felt so forced to me. The final act sucks. This movie is basically a really bad chase movie. You know, I have no problem with chase movies. I'm a horror fan, so a lot of horror movies are chase movies. Obviously, one of the biggest chase movies is one of my favorite chase movies is Terminator. The first Terminator is such a great chase movie. I have no problem with chase movies. You gotta make them entertaining. But that's what this movie was, because he lands, but then he really is only captured for a little bit. Has one scene where Thade kind of fucks with him. Then he breaks out. Then him and the group escape, and then it's the apes trying to capture him. That's pretty much the whole movie. That's why, I didn't even really need to look at Wikipedia for to see what the plot was, because there's really no plot in this movie besides a really bad chase movie. And it's like I said, I'm okay with chase movie. The first Terminator, great chase movie. But you have to have the chase be compelling. It's not compelling in this. It's just, oh, we need you to chase the humans. The humans escape, so we gotta get them. And it's not really a chase. There's a lot of talking. I felt like movie's paced weird too. It's slow, but then it's also very rapid. Especially towards the end. Towards the end, it became like very rapid fire. Like, it was like, okay, now we're gonna have a bunch of shit go quick. And it's like, the first chunk of the movie is slow as shit, but not in a good way. So the pacing's all over the place. I did like some of the set design, like some of the ape, layer looked really good. Like the mountain, when you get a shot of this mountain with like all the ape homes. It was just bad. And also the bad humor was pretty bad. Like, the scenes where the humans escape for the first time, and they're just running through the ape area, like the ape city. So they're running through people's homes, and it's just it feels like a bad gag. I'm like, is this supposed to be funny? Yeah, especially with Paul Giamatti, who he was clearly supposed to be like the comedic relief. The only problem is he was the slave trader. He should not have been a bad guy. He should have just been, maybe have him be someone who works with Mara. He has to be sympathetic to the humans. Because it was like they were trying to still have him be kind of the bad guy, but then he's basically taken, and then he eventually helps him. It's so forced, I felt like. But I will say I did like Paul Giamatti in this. At least he tried. Like he it was at least he know he probably I don't know if he knew it was a bad movie, but he's like, you know what, I'm gonna ham it up in a good way, and I'll say that he's probably like. Besides that, all the other characters are boring. Chris Christopherson, who was Whistler from Blade, was just there to die. Basically, he's just there. He's the dad of the love interest of Mark Wahlberg's character. I think it Mark. I forgot what his character's name is. Chad. I don't remember what his fucking name was. I'll be honest. He was so fucking boring. He was. It wasn't his fault. They just didn't really give him shit to work with. He was just generic lead character action. Like you could just put anybody in a spot and it wouldn't have. So sad because I don't know if it was Tim Burton's fault, if he just wasn't, if it was a studio forced it. It was disappointing because there's some stuff in this movie. If you actually fleshed it out, it could have worked, but there was none of that here. It just, I don't know. So if I were to give this movie out of 10, 4. This is probably the worst Planet of the Apes movie, easily. I'll be honest, I haven't seen all of them. I've seen like the first 3 or 4, I think, of like the originals, and then I've seen and then obviously this shitty one, and then the newer trilogy. But definitely, I don't think some of those later ones are as bad as this one. This one is, like I said, because it had the potential. You had some good actors actually in this movie. I think if you did more work with Michael Clarke Duncan's character, you could have done something with him, but he does nothing in this movie. So anyways, we're just shitting on this movie for the first bit of the video. Tomorrow will be a discussion video. I'm going to talk about why I'm happy superhero films aren't doing well. Because just fundamentally, I'm happy to just be going back to, I love comic book movies. I'm a comic book guy. Especially if they comic book movies done well. But I'm actually kind of happy that we're getting back to a point where it is just like nice regular movies that have nothing to do with superheroes. Like something like The Fall Guy, Boy Kills World, which are just fun movies that are not tied to a superhero. Even last year, even a couple years ago, Bullet Train, just Godzilla -1. Yeah, that's franchise, but it's a Godzilla movie you wouldn't expect to see like that. It's nice just seeing different films even if they don't do well, but just watching them, I'm actually happy to be back to where I was in the early 2000s, where I'm just happy for a movie. There was that point where it was just, whatever superhero film was coming out. So anyway, I don't want to go too long about that, so save that for tomorrow. But, and then Friday, we're going to actually talk about a good Planet of the Apes movie. The new trilogy, we're going to start with Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I think I may, after the originals finished with this trilogy, the new trilogy, I might review the original. I haven't watched it in a long fucking time. Probably since I was a kid, to be honest. I think I was probably a kid when I watched the original the last time. So I might watch that again, probably after I do the new trilogy. So, anyways, let's get into this. So the movie starts. Mark Wahlberg on a mission. Simos, I think, is the pet ape he has. Because he works with apes that go to space. A mission, and Simos goes out, but something goes haywire. So he goes and follows. And he ends up falling, but something happens. I think he goes in some kind of like near a planet or something, obviously some crazy shit where basically, I'll just speed it up. He time travels essentially forward ahead of time, crash lands, on the planet of the apes, basically. Apes are taking over. He sees a bunch of humans not saying anything, which that's another thing, really quick. They don't even really. Humans aren't supposed to be really talking. One of the things about the original film was that the Charlton Heston being the one to talk was what shocked everyone. In this, everyone's fucking talking. Like the main girl, it's Mark Wahlberg and maybe the main girl should have been the only ones who didn't talk or who talked, but everyone else did. There was like a bunch of characters who talked, and it's like, come on. Yeah, there's a scene later where some of the humans don't, but it's like treated as like an afterthought almost. They don't really address it in the film narratively. They're not like, oh, the humans aren't supposed to be talking. And that's what shocks the God, they missed the point of the original. Oh, for fuck's sake. Anyway. It's like I love Tim Burton. I don't know. I'm like that's why I'm hoping that this necessarily isn't his fault. It's one of the maybe studio interference. Maybe they wanted a different. He wanted something different, and they wanted something more. Maybe Hollywood, I guess, is the word for it. Maybe they wanted something more Hollywood and mainstream appealing, and maybe that's why we got this piece of shit. And they changed it. So he ends up crashing, but he gets captured by Atar and Thade, who are capturing a bunch of humans to become slaves, and this is where we see the little slave trader. We see that Mari wants to help humans. Oh God, I didn't even mention this. There are some on the nose references. They like mention like civil rights and okay, that part I don't mind, but they like reference like real life stuff like like I know Planet of the Apes has always had a little bit of political based off reality stuff that was happening at the time. But there's at least within the movie, they still try to make it feel like it's realistic. This is so on the nose. There are times where it's like, okay, come on, come on, dude, you're beating it. Like you're making it so. Oh yeah, they say like separate but equal. It's like, oh my god, come on. It's so like on the nose a little bit. I felt like it threw me off the film, like threw me out of the movie. It's like, oh god, you don't have to be so on the nose with what you're trying to reference. But anyway, so the humans are sold. We see that Thade is in love with Mari, but she doesn't want him. So there's a dinner scene. Thade fucks with Mark Wahlberg's character, like kind of tortures him because they're like made reference that humans don't have souls, and it's supposed to mimic like all the rich looking down on the poor, obviously, and etc. But black and white, whatever you want to put in there, and I just didn't care. That's why I mean the pacing is weird because it's like at this point in the movie, it's very slow. And then Mark escapes after the one ape. I can't think of his name. He's the one gorilla, other gorilla. I guess he helps with Mari. He doesn't like humans, but he kind of reluctantly works with them. So he breaks out. He escapes. Helps the other girl escape, and this is where we see Chris Christopherson, who he was just there. He really did not do anything in the movie because he gets captured. He stays behind. I guess if I remember right, I think he stays behind so the others can escape, and then he gets killed. You don't see it. It's implied he gets his head chopped off. You just don't see it. And this is the scene I was talking about where they're all just running through different ape homes, and they're getting this scene like apes are like one like changing, taking a shower, one's about to have sex. Basically, it's so. I'm like, is this supposed to be funny? Like, are they trying to go for humor here? When Planet of the Apes is supposed to be pretty serious. It's not a franchise. Maybe you can have moment humor where it's like a joke here and there, but I'd even really push it back. I really think at most maybe one joke. I think it's at best you could do with Planet of the Apes. I think that should be a serious franchise. It should not be jokey. Like this feels like a gag. Like they were going for a joke, and they did this like if they did it the one time, it wouldn't be so bad. But they did it like a couple of times, at least 3 or 4 times, before they eventually actually escaped. It was like, okay, we get it. They're running through the homes and interrupting the apes doing their because there's one they free a little girl who's sold to this little girl ape, and she puts her in a cage. It's so on the nose, dude. I would have even been fine if you had it been like she actually is playing with the little girl, but not putting her in a cage. It's like, come on, dude. Or maybe she puts her in the cage just while her parents are in the room, but then she unlocks her. I think it's something like that. It's so they beat in your. Ugh. So they free everybody. They manage to escape. Well, yeah, Chris Christopherson stays behind, gets killed, and then Fade orders Tar and his forces to look for the humans. And then basically, a lot of the film is literally just them getting to know each other, starting this shitty love triangle. It made I wouldn't mind if you had Helen Bonham Carter be an ape character, but they should never have had her been in love with Mark's character. You know what? Have her and the one ape that's with the gorilla that's with her. Why not make them a couple? You didn't need to force this shitty. You could still have it be that, maybe he doesn't really like humans, but he's kind of doing it for her. It would make more sense. He's doing it for her. He may not like humans personally, but he's like, I love her, so I'll do it for her. And then she just, she thinks humans should be treated with respect. Or maybe you write it in the movie that she knew of a time where humans and apes kind of coexisted. Something like that. I think you should have did more instead of this shitty love triangle that just was not needed. And it just brings the movie down. Because that's the only quote-unquote development you get with these characters. Because nothing really happens. You have a little kid character who's just there because you have to have a kid character in there. Then there's a lot of cutting back to like a Fade or a Tar and his forces. It's just kind of, they cut back and forth from here's the human group to the ape. It's paced so all over the place. Like, that's not how you do a movie. Like, Fade, at least Tim Roth, I felt like he put on a good enough performance. He pulled off being merciless. He at least pulled off being intimidating. And I just think if he had better script and more to work, like, I feel like he had enough to work with, but I feel like at least overall, if for the other characters having more to work with, the movie would have been better because they could have been going on his level. And I feel like that was the problem. Like Michael Clark Duncan, great actor, especially at this time, and he's just there to say dialogue. I really feel like that's all he was there for. He had the one fight in the end with the other gorilla, but that was way in the end of the movie. Which the fight was okay, but it was in the end of the movie. He doesn't really do anything else in the middle. Like, you should have had it be he was as ruthless as Thade. Maybe he tortures his own people. Do something with him. It's like they just didn't give him anything to do. So, and then we have the scene with Thade and his father, which is Charlton Heston, who tells basically just dialogue dump about how humans were actually the ones who were in charge of us, and we were the ones in cages. He shows them like a vase to break, which has a gun. So, and then you have the damn them all to hell line, which was just so key jangly. It really was, man. It wasn't. I didn't even really feel like you needed that scene. You could have had some other scene where there's some other way Thade finds out about the humans. You didn't need this scene. I like Charlton Heston. He didn't need to be in this movie. He was just literally there just to say the thing. And it was crazy. Because I felt like... And I don't even think you really see him earlier in the movie. He's just there for that scene when he's in the bed and he's clearly sick. So it's like... It almost was just like, oh, hey guys, it's Charlton Heston. It's like, if you've seen Janet and Silent Bob, where you have Mark Hamill and they have like the, hey, it's Mark Hamill. Like, but that was done as a gag. This felt like that, but for like unironic. Like it felt like they really were serious about like, oh, here's Charlton Heston, but it's like he's just here to say the thing. He didn't even really feel like he had really an actual introduction to the story. He's just there to give him a dialogue dump, exposition dump, whatever you're gonna call it. Give Faye the dump of, oh, humans were in charge of us and we were in cages. He could have found that out some other fucking way. So anyway, then Mari, there's a scene where Mari and because I think this is after they attack Atar's, as they steal their horses and attack Atar's um, base, basically burn it down. But he manages to escape with Mari because Mari almost drowned because she can't like. There's a scene where she doesn't like water because I guess for some reason apes don't like water. Which I mean, I guess like, to an extent could believe that, but there's a part of me that's like, if they took over, they would learn how to swim. Apes are very smart. I feel like they would learn how to swim. They learn not maybe not like swim like be professionally at it, be great at it, but I feel like to adapt, I don't know. That was a little. I don't know if that was just her, maybe specifically. It'd be one thing if you made it specific to her, but it was implied the way she said it that all apes don't like water, which is stupid because you're telling me they took over this planet, but they didn't think about okay, there's water. I don't know. That seems out there for me. But anyway, it's the little things like that. I know you could say that's a nitpick, but if the movie was great, I can see the argument being a nitpick. But no, this is like adds on to just a bunch of myriad of problems this fucking movie has. And then yeah, there's a scene where Mari and um, I don't remember his fucking character's name. Mark Wahlberg have they imply like they're getting closer, but then fucking the other girl gets jealous. You can clearly tell she like storms off. It's like, oh my god, they're beating this love triangle in her head. But then they travel. This is where they find the ship, but it turns out the ship. It's so predictable too how you get this reveal because it's like you can predict it. Even though I've seen this movie a lot, but just even if you've seen this movie the first time, you're gonna predict like, oh, it turns out his ship's gonna be because they had all these cages with the apes in it, or with apes and stuff in it. They're gonna be the ones that came out of it and evolved. And yep, and it turns out that the ship he actually landed was actually ancient, was the one he crash landed on, and yeah. And the other problem I have, Mark Wahlberg is just like react. He doesn't really react to it. And, like there's a scene where he goes into the ship and he sees like the video, and you hear like a lot of it, the people who were looking for him get killed. You don't see it, but you hear it. Like you hear like ape sounds, and then you hear one break and you hear like a scream. And he has like a quick reaction to it, and he just moves on. It's like it's so bad. It's like that's what I mean. If you at least give this character a goal, and then when he finds that out, you could actually have him give him a good. Because I think Mark Wahlberg actually isn't a bad actor if he had something to work with. There's nothing to his character in this movie. Just it's so like, oh, okay, move on. Like all the people who looked for me just died, and I also just found out the ship I was looking for was actually he has no reaction to all this shit going on. Not just his people dying, but just the fact that his ship is actually what caused everything. There's like a quick line where he's like, "Oh, I may have fucked everything up," and then once again moves on from it in the next scene. Oh my god, this movie is just if they at least tried more and just they did stronger with the script, this could have been a decent movie. I do like the aesthetic of the movie, and I do like especially the apes, but it's so bad everything else, man. The plot, the acting, this forced love triangle. Is it necessary? Like easy fix is you just have Mari be with the gorilla guy, the gorilla. That's with her. Make them a couple. Make it. That's why he wants to protect her. And you can even have a scene where he tries to fight Thade because you have the scene where Thade. I'll just jump ahead because she sees. The movie also makes it seem like it's a trick, but no, she goes back because she sees. It's so badly done because it's like okay, so she's butthurt that Wahlberg has more of a connection with the other girl, so she leaves to go see Thade to try to get with him, and then he, because earlier in the film, the humans get branded. So she brands her, and basically basically tells her to go. He basically forces her to go so she can get killed later on. So she goes back to, and then you have a scene with her and Mark Wahlberg, and it's like this is where he's a scene where he's like, okay, we're gonna fight back, and it's like the forced inspirational, like, because he basically this proto leader who's supposed to give the inspirational speech, but it's so manufactured. You're not into it. It's not like when you had the scene where you had the inspirational speech from Charlton Heston, even when he was trying to rally the humans in the original. That's far more compelling than this shit. Or even like, even though I don't know if it's the same way, but James Franco is a far more compelling performance in Rise of the Planet of the Apes than this. And I like Mark Wahlberg. I don't really think it's his fault. I think he didn't have shit to work with. I don't think any of these characters have. That's why the characters are just there. Like, you have a kid character who's just there, and then all these other humans. The humans are all just kind of there, besides Mark Wahlberg, because he's the lead. That's why I say he's generic lead. Anyways. So I'm gonna jump to Thade's forces attack the ship, attack everybody. All the humans fought back. Mark and his crew leave a bunch of traps. Basically, they start fighting. We have a big fight, and the fight scene just wasn't that. It was just a bunch of shit going all over the place. And Thade ends up... Atara turns on Thade, because they lock Thade into the Mark ship. And Thade... I skipped ahead, because Simos lands... and then basically, I guess they all kind of turn on Thade, basically because I guess they see that the ape is going with the human, so they kind of shows them they could. It's so like beaten in the head, like, oh, ape and human can coexist. It's like, okay, so Atar, I guess, becomes the default new leader, and he's like, oh, apes and humans will be buried together. So now it's like obviously showing, oh, that's gonna change. And then Mark Wahlberg goes back to his planet, and then the apes take it over, because you see an ape, Abraham Lincoln statue, and then ape cops show up. It's so bad. What is this fucking ending? There's no explanation how time got changed. It's implied even in the end of the movie. It doesn't even make fucking sense, because it's implied in the end of the movie that apes and human coexist. Why are all of a sudden apes taking over? They're ape cops now. They're all in charge. And it's looking like there's no humans in this world at all. Obviously, it's just this one part you see. But it looks like there's no humans at all, and it's all apes. So did he get lost in like an ape world where there's no humans? It's so fucking confusing. It was just because they wanted to try to force a twist ending like in the original. But in the original, it made sense, and it was for its time. It was the first of its time, so it made sense. This just feels forced. This just feels like we have to have a twist ending like the original. It doesn't matter if it makes fucking sense. Here you go. And it's so fucking stupid. And that's what really destroys this movie, is the ending. I think the whole movie is bad, but really, this ending destroys it. It's so fucking stupid. Such a dumb ending. So, 4 out of 10. I think the soundtrack's decent. There's little decent things about it, but overall, the movie is not good. Like, it just... There's the lack of world building. No compelling characters besides Thade. He's the bad guy. So really was on the human good side. There's no good character. None of them I care about. Paul Giamatti was kind of funny, but that was it. I like some of the ape outfits, but that's it. Like, once again, it's little shit like... And it was 2001. So, at that time, for the most part, CGI might not be perfect, but in terms of practical effects, we had pretty much down by 2001. That same year, The Mummy. Granted, some of the effects don't look great in it, but there were some really good effects, too, in the first Mummy movie. That looks really good. Lord of the Rings was the same year, So, it's like, in this, it's just, the pacing's terrible. the fucking shitty love triangle, which is probably one of the worst things in this movie. That it's so unnecessary. It didn't need to be in this fucking movie. If you're gonna do a love triangle, you could have had it between Fade and the ape guy, that gorilla that she was with. Why not have it be they're a couple, and then maybe he wants to kill Fade because what Fade did to her, and maybe Fade's trying to get to her so he can get political power with her father because her father's like a politician. I should have mentioned that. Yeah, it's so fucking bad. This movie's so. It's probably easily one of the worst Planet of the Apes movie. It might be the worst Planet of the Apes movie. I don't think there's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is bad, but it's not as bad as this. At least it's more of a Planet of the Apes movie than this shit. This is not. I don't know if I even consider this Planet of the Apes. This just feels. Anyway, I don't want to go on too long. But yeah, this movie's terrible. So tomorrow I will be doing a discussion video, like I said, about being happy about CBMs. Just think about it. We're in a world now where CBMs are no longer guaranteed $1 billion. I mean, the Marvels flopped. Last year you got like fucking Flash flopping. A lot of the superhero shows aren't really doing well. Even like X-Men 97, which I'm hearing a lot of people like, is not doing well in the ratings. So, but if we're going to just sticking with movies, even Black Panther 2 didn't do that great. None of the big superhero movies are doing good at all. They're all pretty much underperforming or flopping. And I'm happy about it just because it's not. I want to get back to a point where regular movies. I'm not saying superhero movies can't exist, but and I've gone into my video about like how they're not even really doing the characters anymore when they just swap in them or just straight up just changing their character in general. Like what you get, like what Margot Robbie did with Harley Quinn, like I talked about in the other video. So anyway, I'll talk about this much longer tomorrow, but just wanted to talk about it a little bit. But overall, Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes is terrible. I don't recommend it. Only reason I'd say if you're gonna watch it, only do it if you want to just complete all the movies. If you want to just watch every Planet of the Apes movie, I guess that'd be the only reason to watch it. This one is terrible. There's nothing else. There's really nothing else good about it besides some of the I guess costuming. Anyways, we'll call it here.